Hello guys, in this video I will show you guys how to cut and sew a kaftan step by step, the whole process. So now the first thing we're going to be doing, my measurements is 35 length, 35 bust, 34 shoulder, 19 sleeve length, 10 and round sleeve 14 inches. So now I'm going to do my top line first. So after holding the top line, I'm going to take my full measurement, which is length 35. So I'm going to go from the top line downward and mark my length, which is length 35 inches. So after doing that, I'm going to add 2 inches extra allowance at the down. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing is marking my shoulder. I'm going to divide my shoulder into 2, which is 19 inches. That will give me 9.5. So after marking my 9.5, I'm going to add half inch extra allowance. That is for the sewing allowance. I'm going to add extra half inch sewing allowance. You can see now the 9.5 inches I measure, I'm going to measure it downward for my armhole. Now for my top line, measure 2 inches downward for my shoulder slope. Now my neck, coming to my neck, I'm going to measure 2 inches width and 2 inches depth of the neck. Now this depends on your neck measurements. For I do this 2.5 inches for neck 18 and above, but if your neck is around 17, you can do 2.25, or if it's lesser, you can do 2 inches. So now I'm going to curve my neck, then I'm going to connect my shoulder from the shoulder to the neck point. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is measuring my chest. Remember I said my chest is 42 inches, so I'm going to divide that 43 into 4 places. First I divide it by 2, then I divide it again by 2. That will give me the 1/4 of that 43 inches. Now what I got, I'm going to mark it at my chest area. 42 divided by 2, that is around 21.5. So 21.5, that will give me 10 3/4. So I'm going to measure it, then I add extra 1.5 inches allowance. I'm going to curve my armhole. You can see the way I'm curving my armhole. It depends. You can use your freehand curve or you use this roller. Because this roller wasn't the accurate armhole, so I had to adjust it and make it look the way I want it to be. So I measure my total bust plus my allowance. I'm going to mark it at the down area. After doing this, from my bottom line, I forgot to roll it. From my bottom line, I'm going to come up around 10 inches. Now this depends on how you want your opening at the side to be. You can do depending on your measurements. So I'm going to mark the chest again to that area, then I add extra 1 inch allowance for my opening at the side. Now for my waist, I'm going to come down around 6 inches. Then I measure the chest measurement, then do the same at the waist. After marking it, I'm going to come in by half inch. I'm going to use my hip curve to connect each point together. You can see I'm done marking the front of my kaftan, and I'm just going to roll that part. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to cut it out. Please guys, subscribe to my channel. This is the full video on how to cut and sew a kaftan, so do well to stay on the video so you will get all the knowledge that is being released in this video. I'm done cutting the front. You can see how the front is looking. I'm done cutting the front of the kaftan. So I'm just going to cut the back. You can see this is the front of the kaftan. You can see it's already coming out. I'm just going to fold this and arrange my cloth for the back. Now you can see for the back is a little bit longer than the front, so I'm going to measure 3.5 inches at the top. After marking that 3.5 inches, I'm going to connect those 2 points. Then I'm going to cut it out like this first. Now after doing this, after cutting it out like this, I'm going to overlap my back to the front like this. Then I create a mark at this point, the neck point. Then I notch this area. After notching this area, I'm going to notch the folding point at this area. Then I curve my neck like this. Now this won't be the final cutting. I'm going to come down by half of an inch. I'm going to come down by half of an inch. You can see the way I marked it. Then I'm going to cut out my neck again. Now after doing this, you're going to measure the round neck to see if it's accurate with the measurements. My neck is 18.5 inches, so it's not up to, so I'm going to trim it a little bit. And make sure you don't trim a lot at the down, so your neck at the top front part, so your neck will not come down. If there should be any trimming, a little bit at the front and a little bit at the back, that will give you your accurate neck. Now if it's still not accurate, then when you are sewing it, make sure when you get to the process of piping and everything, I'm still going to trim it in this video. Now it's exactly that, but after I join, there's still going to be allowance taken in, so I'm going to trim that. So you can see I mark that point, then I come down at this point, come out at this point about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to cut it out. Make sure you come out about 1/4 of an inch. That is to give allowance for your shoulder blade. You can see. Just going to cut this out. Now I'm done cutting the front at the back. Just going to fold this, and the next thing I'm going to be cutting is my sleeve, and with my sleeve, my facing and my piping. So I'm just going to fold this and keep it in place. Now I'm still going to work with the chest measurements for the sleeve. Now for my sleeve, remember I said my sleeve length is 10 inches and my one sleeve is 14. So I come down by, I mark my 2 inches allowance, then I measure my sleeve length 10 inches, then I add half inch allowance, then I roll a straight line at the point I add allowance. Now for your bicep of your chest of your sleeve, I use my chest measurement. I'm going to divide my chest by 4, then add 1 inch allowance. This person's chest was a little bit big, so it depends the allowance you will need to add. Sometimes I will just leave the exact chest measurement, but if it's someone with a smaller chest, you can just mark the chest divided by 4, then add 1 inch. But in this guy's measurements, I'm going to be adding only half inch extra allowance. Just going to be adding half inch extra allowance. I was adjusting my cloth. So I divide my chest by 4, Then I add half-inch allowance. Normally I take 1 inch, but in this guy's measurement his chest was big, about 42 inches, so I add only half-inch. Now at that point I come in by 4 inches. You can see that point I just marked. I come in by 4 inches. I'm going to curve my armhole. You can see the way I curve it. Just follow this process when you're curving your armhole. Now I divide my round sleeve by 2. My round sleeve is 14 inches. I divide that 14 inches by 2. Then I mark it. Then I add allowance. You can see. Then I connect each point together. You can see my sleeve is already coming out. This is the whole process of cutting the sleeve of a kaftan. After marking it, I'm just going to cut it out. So now I'm done cutting the sleeve. The next thing I'm going to be cutting is my piping and my facing. Now for cutting your piping, you're going to cut it diagonally of a box or a rectangle, square fabric, sorry. I cut it diagonally. You can see the way, like cutting an X. And I measure my total neck, then add about 3 inches extra allowance just in case. Just that 3 inches I add is just to make sure the piping reach the neck circumference. Now for the width of my piping, I'm measuring 2.5 inches. After marking that 2.5, I'm going to connect each point I mark together. After connecting this point, I'm going to cut it out. You can see the way it's stretching. So this is the way you cut your piping. Now the next process is cutting my facing. So for cutting the facing, I'm going to fold the fabric like this. Then I'm going to place the back of my kaftan. I'm going to place it on top the front like this. Then I cut it. I like doing straight facing at the back, but it depends on how you want your facing to be or the design you want to do. You can just be creative at that point and do something you would like. Like I said, I like cutting my facing straight. You can just do any design you want. For me, I like doing a straight facing. Just make it straight, clean and mature. So I'm done cutting it. Done cutting my piping, my sleeve, and this is the whole process of cutting. So the next process is the sewing. I'm just going to arrange this together. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please continue watching and you'll get the whole message I'm releasing. So I'm just going to fold this and go to the next process. Now I have already cut my ST for my facing, and I cut an interfacing for this cloth. You can see I use my facing to trace it, but it was just a little bit shorter than my actual facing. Now I've already cut my ST for this. I'm using an ST for my facing. So Some people call this yoke actually. You can call it yoke, you can call it facing, all the same thing. Now I'm going to place my ST that I've cut out. I'm going to place it on my facing, then press this with a hot iron. And make sure in this process, make sure that you press your ST very well. Make sure that all the gum stick to the fabric, so there won't be any poker in anywhere. After doing this, I'm going to cut out the excess. I'm going to cut out the excess ST that is in the fabric. So after cutting this out, make sure you cut all these things. This is really important. This will make your work more neater. Okay. You can see the way I'm carefully cutting it out. So now after cutting this out, I'm just going to fold the down of the facing. And make sure you press it again. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. Make sure you press it at the front again. Make sure you press it. This is very important. You can see the way I'm pressing it. Just making sure that there is no excesses on the fabric. And when you are still trimming all those things, make sure you don't cut some part of the facing. So, and this is my interfacing. I'm using a paper stay to gum this. So I'm placing the paper stay. What am I doing? Before I do that, I'm just going to fold this part. I didn't fold this part, I forgot to fold it, but I'm doing that now. Now make sure you cover a cloth when doing this. I apply a little bit of water for moisturizing. Now I'm done with my facing, so I'm just going to focus on the interfacing now. Now for interfacing, this is the fabric I've already cut out. I explained this earlier. I'm using a paper stay for this, so I'm going to apply my paper stay on the fabric. And when you are ironing a paper stay, use a little bit of low heat, because paper stay doesn't like too much heat. It's after you already gum it, then you can increase your heat, then press it on top again. Now I'm just going to trim all these excesses. Thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please comment, let me know what you think about this video after watching it. Let me know what you think. So I'm done trimming this. Now I'm just going to fold I'm going to fold the edges of this interfacing. I'm pressing it again at the top, this to make sure the paper stay rather it has really gummed well. So after pressing this, I'm just going to fold it at the edges. I'm folding it around half inches also. So I fold this point, then I fold the other part. Then I fold this area. I'm folding everything half inches. So I'm done with this interfacing. So I'm placing that on my machine, and so the next thing I will be doing is my font. I'm going to apply ST at the placket area of my font. So firstly, I'm going to press it at the inside like this to make sure I get my center point. Now I'm going to press the center point again at the actual front of the fabric after placing my ST, because this is the inside of the kaftan. So I want my placket to be around 14 inches. So I reduced the resolution of this video. I didn't know I reduced it so much, and now delete the actual file. Please bear with me on the video quality, but the other scenes are clear. It's just this ironing and cutting part. So I'm going to press my ST. I'm going to press my ST on the fabric like this. So I'm just going to trim all those excesses at the top. After doing this, I'm now going to create my center point at the front of the fabric. I'm just going to press the arrange the fabric into two like this. After arranging it, I'm going to press the front of my fabric. Now I'm applying water for this. So I'm done with ironing my front and my back. Just going to create the center point. You don't necessarily have to get to that area, just the placket area, but I'm just doing this just in case it's needful, but it's not that important. You can see this is my center point. Now I'm just going to carry everything I need, and the next thing is going to be on the machine. So I'm going to I've already sealed my facing. Sorry, I didn't put that part on this video. I've already sealed my facing and everything. Oh, I didn't know I didn't add it, so I'm just going to sew my shoulder. Now for sewing the shoulder, you can see the way I turned it. I first placed the front at the back, on top of the back, then I turned the other area. So I didn't add the facing sewing. I'm really sorry for that. I didn't know I didn't add the file for that. Please bear with me. I'm going to do a video on how to sew the facing. I'm going to do the video on how to sew the facing. Please bear with me. So now, for the other sewing video is in this video. So now you can see the way I sew my shoulder. I place it on the back, then turn it, then stitch it half inches. Now I'm done sewing my shoulder. You can see it. Now I'm just going to press this with my iron. Now for this, I'm going to place it like this. First, I'm going to iron the back, the inside of the shoulder with this way. Then I press it with my iron. After pressing this, I'm going to use my cola to heat it. And make sure you add water when you are doing this. This is just to give you a nice finishing. I'm going to use my cola to heat it like this. Then now I'm going to press it at the actual front. Please guys, sorry for not adding the facing. I'm really feeling guilty for that. Please have mercy on me. I'm going to do a video on that very soon. I actually did the video, but I didn't add it. So now I already iron my shoulder. Now I'm just going to stop and top stitch. So now you can see I'm going to top stitch my shoulder at this point. So after stitching this, what I did at this shoulder, I'm going to do it at the second part. So you can see I'm done with one of the shoulder. You can see the way I sew my interfacing. I sew my interfacing first before I sew my actual facing. I didn't add the sewing video. So I'm going to do the second shoulder. You can see the way I'm turning it. At first I'm joining one of the back to the front, then I turn it with the facing. So I'm just going to stitch this together the way I did my other shoulder. So I'm done stitching this. I'm just going to press it. Just going to press it and stitch it the way I did the other part. So I'm done stitching it and pressing it. I'm going to iron the shoulder very well. Make sure you press this with your iron. So I'm done. I'm going to press the other part of the shoulder to apply water. Make sure we are working with water when sewing. This is very important. It helps the work more faster and neater. And you can see the way I'm covering fabric so it doesn't shine. Now you can see I'm done with the front. So now I'm going to measure my neck circumference. So I already joined my shoulder, so the neck is going to reduce a little bit. So after measure my neck circumference, it wasn't the actual neck, so I'm just going to trim it a little bit. You can see the way I'm trimming it. I trim it at the front a little. Make sure when you're trimming at the front, don't trim more than 1/4 of an inch when you're trimming the front. Now I'm going to trim the back, because the measurement I had before was around 17.5, so I want to make it the actual 18.5 inch. That is my actual neck for my client. So now I'm just going to measure the neck again to see if it has given me the accurate neck measurement. Now you can see it has given me my 18.5. So I'm just going to press this. So after pressing this, I hit it with my cooler like this. Now my neck circumference is okay, and I'm going to work on my piping next. So I've already cut my piping earlier in the video. I show how to cut this piping, and also have a video on piping. I'm going to leave the link in the description below. So I'm going to identify my front and back. After identifying it, I'm going to fold it. I'll first fold half of an inch at this point. So I folded half inch. So after folding my half inch, I'm going to apply an hemming gum. And when you are fixing your hemming gum, make sure it reach the tip of where you folded. You can see I put it inside very well. So after putting this inside, I'm going to press the edge. Make sure your iron doesn't touch the hemming gum. I turn it the other way so I will avoid touching the hemming gum. So now I'm just going to trim the excess hemming gum. Now you can see I'm just ironing it at the edge. My iron wanted to touch that area, but I avoided it. You can see that I'm ironing it at the edge first. Now I'm going to fold the other part on top of this. I'm going to fold the other part like this. Now this my piping is, the width is around 1/4. That's giving me that 1/4 width I want. So now I'm just going to fold half inch. Now you're going to leave 1/4 of an inch for the back. That is the place that is going to be inside. This half inch I'm folding is the place that is going to be visible. So you're going to leave 1/4 of an inch that will be at the back. So after pressing this, you can see I'm done with my piping. Now I'm just going to sew this around my neck. So now when you are sewing your piping, you can see I'm going to open my piping like this. Then at the break point, I'm going to put the neck of my main cloth inside where my break point is, and make sure it's really inside. This will help your neck to be more smoother. Now I'm going to do this process all around the neck. I open it, then fix my neck, outer neck at the break point of the piping I've ironed. And I'm going to stitch this around the neck. I zoom it a little bit so you will see what I'm doing. I open my break point, then place my neck inside. Open the pipe and place my neck to the break point, then stitch it around. Thank you guys for watching my video. Please subscribe to my channel and let me know what you think about this. So I follow that process all through the neck line. I open it, place it inside, then stitch it. That is the process. You open your piping, place your neck to the break point of your piping, then stitch it. So I'm going to top stitch it at the edge. Depending on how you want your neck design to be, you can do 2, you can do 3, you can do probably 4, but I just like mine to be 2 line, just to make it look mature. I like my kaftan looking mature. I don't like putting too much in neck, like too much sewing line at the piping. I just like it too. So I'm done top stitching. So I'm done top stitching my neck. I zoom it out back to the actual form. So I'm going to press this with my iron. So let's go to the next process. Now this next process is very important. This is very important because this really matters on the look of your kaftan. I place my white white cloth like this, then I apply water, then I press it first at the shoulder point. Now I use my hand to adjust my neck. You can see the neck is already coming out just in this first person. I use my hand to adjust my neck measurement. So I said neck measurement. I use my hand to adjust my neck circumference to make sure the neck is in order. You can see I'm done ironing that part. Then I do the same at this point. This point will be more visible for you. I press it from my shoulder point. Then I use my hand to try positioning my neck. That's the word, positioning my neck. You can see I'm done pressing the neck. So I'm going to press this more. I'm just going to press this to make sure it gives me that nice clear finishing that I want. You can see my neck has already come out. Just follow this process when you're piping your neck and you get a very clean finished neck. You can see my neck is already completed. I'm just going to trim those excesses. It's not important. I'm just going to trim it off. If you like, you can press it again. If you like, this is just the whole process on piping your kaftan. You can see the neck is ready. So now I'm focusing on I'm doing my placket and my pocket. So I'm using a collar stick for this. So remember I said the length of my placket is 14 inches. So I'm going to mark the length of my placket, which is 14 inches. Then the width of my placket, I want to use 1/4. So I measure 1/4 all through. Then I connect those points that I've marked together. You can see. So after connecting those points, I'm going to cut it out. This is for my placket. Now the next thing is my pocket. First I'm going to measure the width of my pocket. I'm using about 4/4. So I'm going to measure the length, which is 5.5. Then the width is 4.5. 4.5, 5.5. I'm just going to cut it out. So I'm going to fold this. Now depending on the shape or the design you want to do in your pocket. Now for this, I just want the down to be a little bit curved. can see I just curve it with my scissors, cut out that part. So I'm going to iron all this thing that I've cut out. So the first thing I'm going to gum is my pocket. I'm going to press it with my iron like this. This is a cola stove. Make sure you use a little bit of high heat on this because sometimes it's a little bit difficult to gum. But make sure you press this very well. Stay on this. Make sure you press this very well. Mine has already gummed. Now I'm going to fold that part. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to apply hemming gum at this point. Then I fold it back, then press it. Now I'm going to fold this point. I'm going to fold this point like this. Then I fold the other points too. Now after doing this, I'm going to apply hemming gum at this point that I fold. For this, I split my hemming gum into two smaller pieces. Then I fold it. Now it has made that place stay the way it should be. Applying hemming gum is very important when sewing. This is a very vital part of sewing. Now just going to do the down. I notch it a little bit to make the curving easier. Then I press it with my iron. You can see I press it with my iron. Now I'm going to do the same. I cut out some part of the hemming gum. I split into two. Then put it inside this side that I folded. And I press it. You can see I'm done with my pocket. You can see the way it's shaped. Now the next process is my placket. Now I've placed my placket on the fabric, then I press it with my iron. You can see, use a little bit of high heat when doing this because I use the collar stick for the plackets and the pockets because collar stick sometimes is difficult. It needs a little bit of high heat for the gum to stay to the fabric. Now I cut those excesses, then I fold this point. Now after folding this, I will apply hemming gum. I'm going to split this hemming gum into two smaller pieces. You can see. Then I apply the hemming gum that I've splitted. Then put it in this part that I folded. I'm going to give it a good press with my iron. Make sure you are folding it at this so that your placket will fall at the right side. I fold it at the right side, so when I'm turning at this other part to fall at the correct area. So I fold the top part of my placket, then I'm going to apply a little piece of hemming gum at that area. You can see the way I'm using hemming gums. This will make your work more neater. I'm going to do the same at the down. Now I'm just going to push this part and press it. You can see the way I folded it and press it with my iron. Apply a little bit of water to make the work easier. Now I'm going to trim my plackets. Now for the allowance at the side, you can put a quarter of an inch, or depending on how wide you want your allowance to be, or no allowance at all. I measure the width of my tears, the front of my cloth, then I apply that when I'm cutting my placket. So now for the smaller parts of the plackets, this is going to be the one inside. I'm going to apply, I'm using paper stay. I like using paper stay for this. It just gives me the best result. So I'm going to press my paper stay on top. After pressing it, I press it at the top too. Then I fold about half inch. You can see the way I folded half inch. Then I fold it again at this point. Now I'm going to leave about 0.3 of an inch allowance. Unlike the main placket, I'm leaving 1/4 of an inch, but this I'm leaving 0.3. And now I folded the top, then press it again. You can see I'm done sewing. I'm done ironing. So now in the next scene, I'm going to stitch my placket first. Now the first thing I'm going to be stitching is the smaller part of the placket. Now I place it like this, then stitch from the piping area down to where my tear stop. And after doing this, I'm going to open the fabric and open the kaftan like this, then fold this point, then I stitch it first at the top. I'm just zooming it a little bit so you see what I'm doing. I stitch it first at the top point like this. After stitching this, I'm going to stitch it down, and make sure you are stitching it at the edge to make your work more neater. And when you are doing this, you are going to make sure your hand is really straight. So I'm done stitching the smaller placket. I'm going to cut all those threads. Cut threads in your cloth to cut it. This will make your work neater. People like leaving thread, plenty thread in their clothes. Now I'm going to stitch the bigger placket. That is the main placket that is going to be visible. You can see the way I opened it, then I stitch it. When stitching this, I stitch it around 1/4 to 0.3 of an inch. I stitch it from the piping area down to where my tear stop, the way I did the other parts. Now first I'm going to top stitch from this point. This point is around where my tear stop. I'm going to stitch it from that point. You can see I stitch it from that point. Make sure you are stitching this at the edges. I'm laying more emphasis on stitching at the edges. This will make your work more neater. Then I'm going to stitch it at the top here. You can see. Hope this video is visible enough for you. Now after stitching that area, I'm going to place my cloth like this. Now I'm going to give you a temporary stitch at this point. Now when doing this, you will want to increase the size of your stitch. Now when doing this, I'm not going to lock the stitch. I'm just going to sew it straight. This is just a temporary stitch. This is just to hold my placket in order. Now I'm going to carry it back to the main stitches that I was using. I'm just going to stitch the edges. And remember, I created a center a middle line when I was ironing the front. So now I'm going to work with that middle line when I'm sewing my placket. I'm going to place my placket at the center of that line. You can see. So this wasn't visible enough, but I hope you understand the whole process. You can see. Then after stitching that point, I'm going to come at this point. Then stitch it up to where my stitches started. And make sure it doesn't pass that place where your stitches started. Now I'm just going to slant it a little bit. So I'm done. So I'm done with the placket. Now I'm going to do my pocket. Now for my shoulder point, I come down around 9.5 inches. Then I come out around 1.25. So I place my pocket. You can see the way I place my pocket. Now I'm going to cut I'm going to split an hemming gum into two, like I did earlier for my placket. I position my pocket very well, then put the hemming gum inside. This is just to make the pocket stay the way I want it to be, so when I'm sewing it doesn't shake or remove from the position it should be. I'm done placing the hemming gum. Then I press it with my iron. Apply water, press it with my iron. Make sure the hemming gum has stayed to the pocket and the main cloth. Now I've gummed this, so now I'm just going to stitch these pockets around at the edge. Now I'm going to open my kaftan like this. I'm going to spread it like this. So after spreading it, I'm going to stitch it at the edge. Make sure you stitch it at the edge. I'm going to stitch at the edge round. This why I always emphasize on this stitching at the edge is to make your wall neat, and make sure your hand is straight when doing this. Make sure your hand doesn't deviate from the line you have been sewing since. So after stitching this, just going to cut all those threads. So I'm done stitching my pocket. You can see. Now I'm going to press this pocket. First I press it inside. Apply water, then I press it inside. Now I'm going to press it outside. I apply water, then I cover with a material, then I press it. Make sure you are covering. This will help your. Make sure you are covering the front part. This will make your cloth not shine. This will prevent it from shining. Now I'm done with the piping, my placket and my pocket. So now I'm going to trim my armhole and my bust. So now my bust is 43, so I'm going to divide 43 by 2, which is 21 and a half. So the allowance I have remaining, I'm going to divide the allowance by 2. After measuring my 22 and a half, I'm going to divide the allowance by 2, then mark one of the allowance are divided, then measure my 21 and a half, then the remaining part will follow that area. Remember in the cutting measurements I added 1 and a half, so the allowance here at this point is 1 and a half, then I measure my chest. Now I'm going to trim my armhole. First, before I trim my armhole, I'm going to measure my shoulder. Now I mark the center point at my back, then I divide my shoulder into 2, which is 9 and a half, then I add half inch sewing allowance. I'm going to do the same at the other part, 9 and a half, then add half inch sewing allowance. After doing this, I'm going to follow this process. When you're cutting your armhole, you place your sleeve like this, then you can see the way I'm doing it. Just follow this process when you are trimming your armhole. Now I'm going to cut it out first. Now you're going to cut first the front part. Remember, I'm leaving 1/4 of an inch. That's why I cut the front first. I'm going to leave that 1/4 of an inch when I'm cutting the back. I'm going to do the same at this other part. I trim my armhole. First I cut the front, then for the back I leave 1/4 of an inch. So now I'm done cutting my armhole. Now I'm just going to sew it. So now I'm going to sew my sleeve. So I'm going to sew my armhole. You can see the way I place my sleeve. I'm just going to stitch this half. I'm stitching half inch all through the armhole. So I'm done stitching the first sleeve. I'm going to do the same at the second sleeve. I'm going to seal half inch all through. So you can see I'm sewing half inch. Just follow this process. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, comment, hit notification button. Let me know what you think about this video and highlight me what I should do next for you to watch. So now I'm done with sewing my armhole. So I've already weaved this. I've weaved the kaftan. So now I'm just going to fold my sleeve. I'm going to fold it around 2 inches because 2 inches is the allowance I added when I was cutting. So I'm going to fold it 2 inches. After pressing this, I'm going to do the same at the other part too. This is the final part of this kaftan sewing. I'm going to do the same at the other part. I'm going to fold 2 inches allowance, then I press it with my iron. If you can see, I'm marking my 2 inches. Thank you guys for watching my video. I really appreciate it. Now I'm just going to sew this next. Firstly, I'm going to stitch now I'm stitching it at the front because of the sewing line, to make the sewing line more neater. I can as well stitch it inside, but I'm just folding it and stitching it at the top. You don't necessarily have to apply this process, you can just sew it inside. Now I'm doing the same at the other part of the sleeve. You can see. Now I'm going to measure the width, which is 7 inches. So I'm going to measure 7 inches. I'm going to the width is 14. The width of my armhole is 14. So 14 divided by 2, which is 7. That's why I said 7 inches. So I'm going to measure that 7 inches. And at this point, I'm going to come in because I'm seeing half inch for my. I'm taking in only half inch for my for the side of my kaftan. The other allowances is for ease when the client is wearing it. So I'm going to do the same at the other part. I'm going to do the same at the other part. So you can see I mark half inch at that point. I'm just going to sew my half inch also because the armhole wasn't starting with half inch, so I had to deviate to that half inch. So now I'm done joining the side. So the remaining part is my opening at the side and my hem. I'm going to fold the hem and the opening at the side. Now, firstly, the side that I am joined, I'm going to press it with iron. You can see the way I'm pressing it. I press that side first. So, this is very important because to make sure the side joining is smooth, you have to follow this process. You can see, I'm just going to iron the sleeve. I'm going to open the side. I'm going to open the side. So after opening it, I'm going to open the sleeve too. I'll do the process at the other side. So I'll apply this process at the other side. I'm going to open the side seam that I've already sewn. So now I'm going to fold down at my vent, that is my opening at the side. I'm going to fold it down about 2 inches. You can see the 2 inches I've already marked when I was cutting. So I'm going to fold it. I'm going to press this really, really well. After folding this, I'm going to fold the other parts too. Now I'm going to iron my vent. Thank you guys for watching my video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to this channel, comment. I really need your comment. Let me know what you think, and hit the notification button. So I'm going to iron the other vent. Make sure you fold this very well when you're ironing. I'm just going to press this. So now after pressing, I'm just going to sew everything. Now for the sewing, I'm sewing the down first. This is the final part of this video. Thank you guys for coming this far to this video. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. I really appreciate. Thank you all for watching this video. Now I'm going to stitch the vent, that is the opening at the side. I'm going to stitch it, stopping at this point. Then I come like this. stitch to that area, then I'm going to stitch it down. So this process, I'm going to do this at the what does they call it, at the other parts. I'm going to do it at the other parts. So I'm done stitching everything. So now I'm just going to press this. So since I've already opened the side, I'm just going to press it at the outside. I'm going to first iron the hem and the vent and the hem of the garment. I'm going to press it very well. I'm going to turn it outside. I've already opened the side seam, so I'm just going to press the side like this. You can see. You can see the way I'm covering cloth. This is very important. This is the final part of this kaftan sewing. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate. And we're going to press this over and over and over again to when it's in my satisfaction. Then I will stop pressing. Make sure you press your kaftan very well. I usually stay on kaftan when I'm pressing it to give it that smooth, clean finishing that I desire. Because if you do not press it well, it will not, and no other person can press it the way you can. Even your client that you give the clothes cannot press it the way you thought to. So you have to give it the pressing so it will be easier for them to iron. So thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate. Please subscribe to my channel, hit notification button, comment, like, share, like again. Thank you guys for watching my video. I really appreciate. So this is the final process. I'm just going to press this over and over again. So see you guys on my next video. Please subscribe. Sorry for not releasing the back part. I didn't know I didn't add. I forgot to add the back part when I was showing the facing. So guys, subscribe to my channel, comment, like, and see you guys on my next video.